Yes, this is a hardcore grind interview with the dynamic author, artist, entrepreneur, SF Hardy. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Lissha.
Thank you so much for being here. Listen, now I love to talk about a goal moment. A goal moment is when thought and execution comes together. A lot of times we're mindful about others, how they move, what they do, and what they don't do. But when it comes to ourselves, we tend to deal in lack or fear. So what was the goal moment that made you sit down and become a children's author?
Well, I've always written as a form of expression, specifically as a child. So writing for children just is a natural progression. I am a librarian, and I get to see a lot of the books that are published for children. My first children's book was inspired loosely by my experiences with my hair and growing up in a salon and just watching women and girls obsess over their hair. So The Empress's New Hair is my first children's book, and the idea came to me one day. I was driving in the car, commuting like 80 miles from home, one way to work, and I decided to write the story, and it really touches on embracing what you have and who you are in order to show love for self, as well as share the importance of diversity.
And what are some of the biggest challenges you face as a children's author?
Being a children's author is challenging because you have to think about not only what will grab the child's attention or the children's attention, but also the parents, the people who are going to purchase the books. And even sometimes creating the story so that it's not preachy, but it also tells a story or has a social, a positive social view for children to get, but still be entertaining.
Now, when you're creating your characters, how do you create them so that they are really relatable in the storyline and engaging for the youth readers?
The characters generally come to me, and but I intentionally, what I want them to look like is what I create in terms of like skin tone, body shape, clothes. I have an idea in mind because I want to show characters that look like people of color. I write the stories for everybody, but I think representation, as we all do, is important for children to see and experience. So with that in mind, I am very specific with what I ask my illustrators for. Mm-hmm. And so the physical makeup is really important. The characters, they're not as complex as they would be in an adult novel, mm-hmm. because you don't have that much word space for it. So the visual is really important. when I publish my stories.
Absolutely. Now, do you have a favorite character that you've created, and what makes that character your favorite?
Jabbar is my favorite character. He is in 2 of my books, and he will be in more books. He's my favorite because he is a dynamic, inquisitive little boy. And he explores, and he's very fun. And he's what I would like to portray for my audience.
Absolutely. Now, you mentioned that you were a librarian. How do you balance the educational content with your entertainment content in your stories?
Research. So for Dancing Monkeys in My Soup, which the title came to me first after doing a program at the library with my nephew. Didn't have anything to do with dancing, but he is our dancing machine. He was young, very young at the time. He's 15 now. And the title came to me, and then I started to do research. And as I did the research on the Pygmy Marmosets, the story just started to unravel. So it's just a natural progression, just doing the research. The more I learn, the story is just there, and I just put the words together.
I love it. Now, what advice would you give someone that was looking to write a children's book?
To make sure you know what you're doing. So you have to invest in yourself, learn the differences between the children's book. If you want to do middle grade novel, you're doing picture book, you're doing fiction, nonfiction, study that. Find an editor that specializes in children's work. And also, if you're going to do picture books, my biggest advice is to hire an illustrator that is going to bring your vision to life. Also, give them room, give them some creative freedom. And if you don't have the money to spend on an illustrator at the moment, wait until you do, because for picture books, the pictures are everything. It's just like the cover of an adult novel. It's what sells the book. So you have 32 pictures or more, or sometimes a little less, when you're doing a children's picture book. But study the craft. Don't just, say, I want to write a children's book. Go to the library. Look at other books that are in the same genre, or, the same theme, or some that are not. And look at how the big publishers publish books. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You still can keep your flavor and stuff like that, but you the formula has already been invented for you. So study.
Absolutely.
Tell them. Well, that's what I tell people.
Exactly. And it's important that you tell them that, because I think a lot of times people look for mentors, and I don't really believe that you need a mentor. I believe that, again, like you said, you have to watch those people doing the things that you want to do. You have to watch how they move, because if you don't know how that thing is supposed to be done, how you should carry yourself, you're going to be bumping around in the dark trying to figure it out. And then that becomes a waste of money and a waste of time in the process.
I agree. In a big waste of money and a big waste of time. Know the industry. And, for me, writing for children is something that I do. It's a labor of love. I understand that, there's a lot more, but we're underrepresented in children's books. Boys are underrepresented in children's books. That's why Jabbar is my favorite character of mine. And I want to saturate the market and want to see others saturate the market with books that, look like they have the representation. It's not, excluding anybody else, but we are included. And it does, tell our stories and debunk myths. So, yeah, just, if you're going to do it right.
Absolutely. Now, the National Assessment of Education Progress, their latest report states that 82% of Black students are not reading proficiently. How are you feeling about that as a librarian?
It's disheartening. It's disheartening because we know that at one point in time, we were not able to read. It was illegal for us to learn how to read. And, there's a saying, you want to keep something from a NIGGA, put it in black and white. And so it's like, why? Even with the programming that I put on at the library and others put on, we're not showing up. It's free. And I don't know if free means to some people that it holds no value, but it's like this is one place that you're not ostracized from. We're not, you can come, you can learn something, take it and go and create, capital if you so choose. But it's free, so what do you have to lose? And you're not participating. And when I work in a library that of a community that's predominantly Caucasian, and they show up to story time. In fact, at my branch, there's 2 story times because he couldn't accommodate all the people who wanted to come. So each Tuesday, there's 2 story times. But when I worked in my community in Detroit, you have story time is not as heavily attended. And so that speaks to me to the lack of literacy. We're not, sometimes I have had parents tell me when I've handed their children books, because they might have been screaming and hollering, I can't stand it, so I give you a book. And so the mother would be like, she's not reading yet. She doesn't have to be. It starts in the womb. I think there's a misconception that we wait until we send our children to school to start reading. And so one of the ways that I've tried to combat that was create my reading readiness program, which is Get Litty, and it's for children and their families 3 to 5. My idea is that if we create a joy for reading early, when they go to school, they're not behind, or they don't hate reading because or view it as a punishment because they're behind. They get to school and they don't have the fundamentals because it wasn't given to them at home. And I think it's because a lot of parents don't realize the importance of reading and the importance of holding a book. It's okay that you don't want to read. I had we went to my brother's birthday yesterday, and a young lady came to me and she told me about how her baby, who was not even 2 yet, brings my books to her to read to her, or she tries to read. She can't read, but she knows what that book is. So reading to our babies early on, if you can't read, because that's a big thing in our community. If 82% of the children can't read, then that indicates that the parents probably can't or don't do it well.
Mm-hmm.
So put your children in a position where they can get it. Take them to the library. Take them where somebody can. And don't be, if you can't read, seek help. Because not being able to read is like going to another country and not speaking the language. How are you going to function? So it's scary, it's sad, and I would really like to do my part in helping to eliminate illiteracy.
Absolutely. Now, you're an artist as well. What was that moment in your career path that influenced you to become an artist?
Okay, so I've always doodled. I never thought I would be an artist. Almost everybody in my family, my mother, my brother, my uncles, my cousins, they can draw and paint. And so I never thought that I would do that. Although I've always doodled. I would paint stuff for myself, nothing that I thought anybody else would appreciate. Maybe I would, create something to cover up a hole in the wall. I couldn't fix the hole, but I could cover it up. So within like the last 2 years, I decided that I was going to study illustrating so I could illustrate my own books because I have more ideas and I have money for books. Created a character, friend saw her. I was creating her for a program that I was going to do at a school and didn't think anything more of it. When my friend saw the character, she said that she would wear her on a shirt because I was asking her about something else, another picture that I created, a digital illustration, and she said she wouldn't wear her, but she would wear the little girl, who her name became Missy. And so she encouraged me to paint Missy in a bunch of different colors, different hair colors and stuff like that. So I did. I'm a pack rat, so I had all the art supplies. I had art from almost like 20 years ago and paint. And started painting her, and then I just started painting my flowers, my little doodles. And I started going to a place we have here, the Detroit Fine Arts Breakfast Club, and you have 2 minutes to talk about yourself, your process, and your art. You can show 2 pieces. Well, my first 2 times going, I presented, and I actually sold my art. And so that was probably the moment where I realized, like, I actually do have something that, somebody else can appreciate. Although, kind of abstract and not so figurative, I started to allow myself to just create and not put myself in a box. And so, like, I had to be like some of the greats. I love art. I've studied art. My favorite illustrator and artist is Frank Morrison. It's one of my favorites. And I've had the opportunity to meet him. And so I just, like, I may not be like the people that I admire, but I have something, a gift as well, and I just let it flow.
Absolutely. Are there specific techniques or styles that you use when you are creating?
So for the most part, what I like to do is create my background first. So I use a lot of color, and I use different tools. I'm not real fond of the paintbrush. I will use it, but I like my fingers. I like trowels, stirring sticks that you use to stir the coffee with, like things that you probably would never think of. I don't like wasting paint, so I will use when I open some paints, they have the little round cap on it, and I'll use that to make circles. So it's whatever I'm feeling at the moment, but I like to create my background first. And if I'm going to create something on top of it, then I may draw it on first. But for the most part, I do a lot of freehand, and I just let my ideas just take over. So that's my process for the most part. Sometimes I'll sketch stuff out. Like if I come up with an idea, it's just like with my stories. Like I don't really conjure anything; it comes to me. So if an idea comes to me, I'll try to sketch it out either on my iPad, or I'll sketch it out on pen and paper or pencil and paper. Lately, I've been doing a lot of pencil and paper, and sometimes I'll do both. It just depends on how excited I am, and then I'll take it to the canvas. So it just really depends on my mood and what I'm trying to convey.
I love it. I love it. Now, what are some of the biggest challenges that you face as an African American artist?
For me, I haven't really had many challenges, or I don't view it as a challenge, because I do this for a release. It's another form of therapy. So I'm not trying, I want to sell my art, but that's not my sole source of income. So I don't have that pressure that other artists have. I think African American art is more accepted and appreciated now than probably ever, at least in Detroit. And if I had to say a challenge, it was probably people who are formally trained. Kind of sometimes, not everybody, but some people kind of, snub their noses at you because you're not formally trained. And so that can be kind of irritating sometimes, but not so much where, I let it impact what I'm doing. It's just, sometimes the thought of how simple people can be, and in a way kind of selfish. So I don't know if it's like they feel like they went and they spent all this money on school, and like, somebody else who has not should not be viewed as an artist. I'm not really sure, but it is what it is.
Now, in what ways do you hope that your art and your books impact your community?
Of course, I want them to have a positive impact. I would hope that the art, specifically my stories, would encourage my community to have open minds, also to further explore the topics in the stories, talk to children about it, hope that it creates a spirit of creativity and inquisitiveness, and also just an appreciation for self, and see that representation, and know that, that the things that are in the book exist, and that they too can also, pursue whatever dreams and goals that they have.
I love it. I love it. Now, how do you balance, though, your creative sides? I know that sometimes authors feel that when they're working on books, other characters start talking to them. So how do you balance that when you're painting, when characters start talking to you and you are working on another project?
I probably stop one thing and go to what's nagging at me, and then go back to what I'm doing. And if I'm not able to do that, I usually will just like jot down in my notes in my phone what it is I need to go back to or go to once I'm done. But usually if something is pulling at me really strong, I gravitate towards that. So and it's a good thing because, say for instance, I'm painting something and it's not quite done, but I don't really know what I need to do to make it so that I feel like it's complete. I walk away from it, and sometimes it's days, sometimes it's months. And it'll come to me at some point, and I go and I finish it, and I love it, and I don't want to sell it. I don't want to give it away. And that's one of the big things. Like, I create art, and I give it away. So when I feel like that, I know I don't want it. I mean, I don't want to, not I don't want it, that it's done. And so yeah, it's not really, I don't know if that's a balance, but that's how it works for me.
Absolutely. Well, I definitely appreciate you sharing your time, your space, and your energy with us here on Hardcore Grind. I want you to shout out all of your social media and where readers are able to get in contact with you.
So readers can contact me through my website, which is sfhardybooks.com, S as in Sam, F as in Frank, HARD as in dog, Y, books.com. My social media handles are there as well, but I'm on Facebook as Stephanie Y. Fazekas, Fazekas, and I am on Instagram as SF Hardy or She Nominal Inc., SHENOMENALINK. There.
I love it. I love it. And we will talk to you soon.
Thank you, Lissha. Have a good night.